Penelope sat silently near the rear of the yellow school chariot, her focus glued to her sketchpad, trying to ignore the giggling from seats further back. The trip to Crestwood Preparatory School for young ladies had become a predictable misery, which she faced with steely resolve. Her closest confidant, Beatrice, sat close by, glancing back now and then with worry at the trio who seemed to delight in making their days horrible. Behind them, Gwendolen held court like a true monarch. Her expertly coiffed hair and expensive blazer marked her as royalty in the social world of their exclusive academy. Her father's deep pockets extended into every part of the school, ensuring that Gwendolen would never suffer consequences for her behavior. Next to her sat Cecilia, her devoted sidekick, who agreed with everything she said. And at her rear, Beverly, the third in their elite group, who often seemed uneasy with their actions, but said nothing. "See the timid little rabbit," Gwendolen said just loudly enough for Penelope to hear. "Still drawing in that silly little book of yours?" Her voice held the special meanness that only young women could make, made to hurt deep while being hard to punish. Penelope's fingers gripped her pencil tighter, but she refused to let Gwendolen see her react. She had realized early in her time at Crestwood that fighting back only made things worse. The school's leaders seemed to miss Gwendolen's ways, or maybe they just chose to ignore it because of her family's big donations to the school. The chariot jolted as it stopped, and Gwendolen quickly got up, on purpose spilling her soda on Beatrice's clean white blouse. The cold drink went through the cloth, staining it purple and making Beatrice gasp. "Oh dear, I'm so sorry," Gwendolen said with fake kindness, her voice filled with false worry. "How clumsy of me." She used the mess to slip off the chariot unnoticed, meeting her secret beau, Franklin, at the burger joint across the street. Her strict family forbade their relationship, making these stolen times exciting and risky. At school, Beatrice frantically tried to clean the mark from her blouse, but it was too late. It wasn't the first time Gwendolen had picked on her, and it wouldn't be the last. The restroom mirror showed her angry face as she scrubbed at the stubborn spot, knowing that her mother would be upset about the ruined blouse. In the meantime, Gwendolen had changed into jeans and a t-shirt in the burger joint's restroom, her heart beating fast with joy and concern. This was her first time meeting Franklin face to face after many weeks of chatting on the web. She had carefully planned this elaborate trick, using her friend's absence from school as a chance to skip her own classes. Back at Crestwood, their English instructor, Mrs. Donnelly, brought a new student into the class. Serafina walked in with a confidence that immediately made her stand out from the others. Her unique look and fearless attitude made waves of curiosity spread throughout the room. She didn't seem to care about the social rules that controlled the rest of them, a trait that both attracted and scared the others. During lunch, Penelope sat with Beatrice in their usual spot, both very aware of the looks and whispers from the other students. The social isolation was maybe even worse than the direct bullying, making them feel like they were always being watched. Beatrice played with her food, still sad about what happened that morning, while Penelope tried to comfort her even though she was getting more angry. That evening, Penelope phoned her boyfriend, Samuel, hoping for some comfort in their young relationship. They had only been going out for a few weeks, but having him in her life gave her a rare bit of happiness. But when he jokingly called her a bookworm during their call, the word stung her like a punch. It was the same word Gwendolen used to bother her every day, and hearing it from someone she liked felt like a betrayal. The next day brought more shaming. During field hockey, Gwendolen on purpose picked on Penelope with rough plays, using the game as a way to be mean. When the coach told Gwendolen to pass the ball to her teammate, she instead threw it right at Penelope's stomach, saying it was an accident. The coach's light scolding meant nothing to Gwendolen, who knew her father's power would keep her safe from any real problems. In the locker room afterward, things got worse. Gwendolen said Penelope had done something wrong, a false claim that made the other girls stop changing and stare. Serafina saw the whole thing and knew Gwendolyn was lying, but she kept quiet, not wanting to get involved. The claim was bad enough to start an investigation, but Gwendolyn's lies helped her take advantage of the situation. Penelope felt trapped. The false claim had given Gwendolyn new power, and she used it without mercy. Other students started looking at Penelope with suspicion and disgust, believing Gwendolyn's good acting. The isolation was total, with even some instructors treating her differently because of the untrue claims. Unable to handle the unfairness any longer, Penelope made a choice that would change everything. She had heard Gwendolyn planning another secret meeting with Franklin, and she saw a way to get even. Penelope went right to the principal's office and told her about Gwendolyn's skipping classes, giving specific details about how often she did it. The principal, Mrs. Davies, had to do something when she saw the proof of Gwendolyn's actions. She called Gwendolyn to her office and asked her about the skipping classes. However, even with the proof, Gwendolyn only got a warning. The principal's reason was clearly corrupt. They couldn't upset Gwendolyn's powerful father, who had too much control over the school's board. Gwendolyn's group quickly knew that someone had betrayed their leader. They pushed the cleaning staff and other students, using threats to find out who had told on them. When they found out it was Penelope, they became very angry. They trapped her behind the school building, away from cameras and people. The attack was fast and bad. Gwendolyn and her followers surrounded Penelope, pushing and hitting her while she begged them to stop. The violence got worse until Gwendolyn grabbed Penelope's hand and twisted it back, causing her to fall and hit her head on the steps. The girls ran away, leaving Penelope hurt and not moving on the ground. Serafina found Penelope a few minutes later and immediately called for help. The ambulance came quickly, but it was too late. Penelope was rushed to the hospital with a bad head injury, while her attackers had disappeared. The results of the attack would test everyone's morals and show who they really were. When the local police came to the school to ask questions, Gwendolyn and her friends all said the same thing. They said they didn't know anything about what happened, even saying that Penelope had made it all up to get attention. Their performance was good enough to make people doubt, especially because of their families' names and power in the town. Serafina had her own moral problem during the police questions. She had seen the attack, but was very scared of Gwendolyn's threats. Cecilia had trapped her after it happened, making it clear that telling the truth would have bad results. The pressure was strong, and Serafina's silence became another win for the bullies. Days later, when Penelope finally woke up, the school had an assembly to talk about what happened. Penelope was asked to say who had attacked her, but the trauma had made her memory unclear and her confidence weak. Standing in front of all the students, she couldn't talk well, her voice quiet, as she said she didn't remember what happened. Gwendolyn used this moment to make the story go her way. She stood up during the assembly and said she had pushed Penelope, but that it was in self-defense after Penelope had touched her in a way that made her uncomfortable. The false claim from the locker room was now being used to explain the violence, and Gwendolyn's friends backed up her story with practiced stories. The school leaders, already ready to believe Gwendolyn because of her family's power, accepted her story. Penelope was made to look like the attacker and pervert, while Gwendolyn was shown as an innocent victim defending herself. The unfairness was complete when Penelope got a 2-week suspension, while Gwendolyn got another simple warning. The betrayal went to Penelope's own family. Her mother, affected by the school's side and town gossip, started to question her daughter's character. The woman who should have been Penelope's biggest supporter instead became another source of pain and isolation. Penelope's world fell apart as she realized that no one believed her and no one would help her. During her suspension, Penelope had to go to therapy, but she spent the time thinking about Gwendolyn instead of getting better. The therapist saw her obsession, but thought it was a good sign when her anger seemed to go away. In reality, Penelope was planning her revenge, turning her pain into cold, planned strength to destroy those who had hurt her. Beatrice's betrayal hurt the most. When Penelope came back to school, she found out that her former best friend had learned about her secret relationship with Samuel and felt sad that she had been lied to. Also, because Beatrice hadn't been there during the locker room event, she had started to believe Gwendolyn's lies about Penelope's character. Losing her closest friend left Penelope completely alone and made her want revenge even more. The first part of Penelope's revenge started with a simple smoke bomb. While the school was clearing out, she stole Gwendolyn's tablet and got into her social media accounts. She then sent out a recording of Gwendolyn and her friends making fun of Mrs. Donnelly over the school's sound system, making sure that their mean comments reached every student and instructor in the building. The results were quick and good. Gwendolyn, Cecilia, and Beverly found themselves in Mrs. Donnelly's office, unable to lie their way out of the proof. Their punishment included washing bathrooms and being banned from all sports, effectively ending their chances of making the popular cheerleading squad they had been counting on. Watching them clean bathrooms in worker uniforms while other students laughed was the first taste of getting even that Penelope had felt. Serafina went to Penelope after what happened, saying that she knew about the prank and warning her to be careful. This talk led to a surprise about Serafina's past. She had been kicked out of her last school for hacking into their computer system and stealing test questions. Her computer skills and being an outsider made her a possible friend in Penelope's fight against the bullies. The anti-bullying talk that followed gave another chance for shaming. When Mrs. Donnelly chose Gwendolyn to be a victim in the show, Serafina offered to play the bully. Her acting was so good and mean that Gwendolyn was left speechless and embarrassed in front of the whole school. The roles had been switched, and Gwendolyn's strong standing started to crack. Even though the principal interfered in letting the bullies try out for the cheerleading squad, Penelope's cheer skills were obvious. She was chosen for the squad while Gwendolyn was rejected, a choice that sent waves through the school's social world. The coach's explanation that attitude was as important as skill was a direct insult to Gwendolyn's sense of entitlement. Gwendolyn's response was fast and personal. She stole Penelope's personal diary and spread the pages all over the school, showing her deepest thoughts and problems with mental health. The personal details of Penelope's therapy visits and emotional problems became public fun, causing a total loss of her remaining pride. The diary event pushed Penelope to her breaking point. She thought about switching schools, ready to give up her revenge if it meant escaping the constant shaming. But Serafina and Beatrice, who had started to see the truth about Gwendolyn's character, convinced her to stay and fight. They said that Gwendolyn and Cecilia were planning to sneak out during the coming school trip, giving the perfect chance for the next part of their revenge. In the meantime, the results of Penelope's past actions were becoming clear. Beverly, who had been caught in the middle of the fake bow scheme, was having problems with the results. Her strict family's reaction to the embarrassing pictures had been bad, and she was taken out of school in disgrace. The girl who had once been part of the popular group was now an outcast, her name destroyed by a single changed picture. The school trip to the lake house gave the stage for the final part of Penelope's revenge. She had carefully planned Serafina's room assignment to watch Gwendolyn and Cecilia, even though Serafina was unsure about how dangerous their plans were getting. The tension between the friends was growing as the moral meanings of their actions became clearer. At the lake house, an unexpected event happened that made Penelope's plans more complicated. When an older man bothered Serafina at the gift shop, Gwendolyn quickly came to her defense, showing a side of her personality that was different from her usual meanness. This act of real kindness made Serafina question their revenge plan and think about whether Gwendolyn was all bad. The complexity of human nature became clear as the trip went on. Gwendolyn's protection of Serafina and her real worry for her safety made the revenge plan less satisfying. Serafina started to argue for a different way, suggesting they talk to Gwendolen directly instead of going on with their harmful schemes. Penelope's reaction to Serafina's change of heart was harsh and showed her true colors. She kicked Serafina out of their group, ready to finish her revenge alone. The isolation that had once been forced on her was now her own choice, as she pushed away anyone who questioned her ways. The bullied had become the bully, going on with the cycle of hurt and revenge. The dance club event that followed was a masterclass in manipulation and moral compromise. Penelope's tip to the chaperones about the missing students put everyone at risk, including Serafina, who had reluctantly joined Gwendolen's group. The results of this betrayal went far beyond their group, affecting innocent people and making new victims. Cecilia felt the worst results of the club event. Her abusive home life meant that being caught out at night resulted in physical violence from her alcoholic father. The bruises she wore to school were a clear sign of the real-world results of their young drama. Yet Penelope felt no regret, seeing Cecilia's suffering as fair payback for years of torment. The final part of Penelope's revenge targeted Gwendolen directly, using her secret relationship as a weapon. Penelope had gathered detailed information about Gwendolen's beau, Franklin, including his address and daily habits. When Gwendolen planned another secret meeting, Penelope saw her chance to destroy her enemy completely. The complexity of Gwendolen's home life became clear as the plan went on. Her older brother, Harold's, controlling ways and violent temper were well known within the family, but his authority was unquestioned. Gwendolen's relationship with Franklin wasn't just forbidden. It was really dangerous because of her family's strict values and Harold's quick temper. Penelope's choice to tell Harold about Gwendolen's location was the point of no return. Even though Serafina, Beatrice, and even Cecilia begged her to reconsider, Penelope sent the information that would put Gwendolen in danger. The revenge that had started with pranks and embarrassment had grown to potentially deadly results. The confrontation at Franklin's house was fast and scary. Harold's discovery of his sister's relationship triggered a rage that went beyond normal family discipline. The baseball bat he had been carrying in his car earlier became a tool of possible murder as he pointed it at Gwendolen, who could only beg for her life while he decided her fate. The fact that Franklin was actually Principal Davis's son added another layer of complexity to the situation. The corruption and favoritism that had protected Gwendolen throughout her school career was partly because the principal wanted to keep her own family safe from scandal. The web of relationships and hidden connections that controlled their world was more complicated than anyone had realized. After her successful revenge, Penelope walked through the school halls with a feeling of total satisfaction. She had systematically destroyed each of her tormentors, using their own weapons against them. The mind tricks, social isolation, and name destruction that had once been used on her were now tools in her hand. The sight of Cecilia crying in the hallway meant nothing to Penelope now. The girl who had once been desperate for friendship and acceptance had been changed into something cold and calculating. The bullies had made a monster, and that monster had proven more heartless than they had ever been. The cycle of revenge had reached its end, but the real cost was only starting to be understood. Penelope's win was complete, but it had come at the cost of her own humanity. The quiet, shy girl who had once wanted only acceptance had become someone she wouldn't have recognized, showing that sometimes the cure can be worse than the disease. The school hallways that had once echoed with Penelope's suffering now saw her triumph. But in winning her fight against the bullies, she had lost something far more valuable: her innocence, her kindness, and her ability to see beyond the darkness that had taken over her world. The revenge was complete, but the real tragedy was just starting. Character count 19,584.